One of Kansas City's most prominent figures is about to celebrate a birthday. She'll be 5 next month. Actually, she's a lot older than that, but she was born again 5 years ago. The lady in question is the Connie, the Lockheed Super G Constellation. Tom Gower and no fewer than 5 cameramen have followed the plane's progress over the years.
She's been around town now for 5 years, and still she gets a lot of attention. The Connie never fails to get a double take as motorists drive past the airplane's home at the downtown airport. The facelift on the plane continues, and though restoration is far from complete, the old gal is looking and feeling more like her old self. She's one of the last of a dying breed. Once the star of Trans World Airlines' fleet, the Constellation fell out of favor with the arrival of the jet age. The airline once operated 147 of these planes, and as this old ad proclaims, this was a craft that fairly dripped luxury.
It was the Cadillac, if you want to call it Cadillac, or maybe the Audi today of the fleet. It was a luxury aircraft. The 50, 60 seats maximum. People came on with they were always dressed. You didn't get anybody in cutoffs or anything. It was kind of quite an operation. And flew coast to coast. It would do it in 6 hours from east to west, a long haul.
A long haul was the first step on the Connie's road to recovery. The plane sputtered into Kansas City after it languished for 11 years in the Arizona desert. After 16 years as a cargo plane and later a pesticide sprayer, the Super G was about to undergo a process that so far has involved more than 100,000 man-hours of restoration to transform the old bird from this to this.
See those spinners on there? We took him home night before last, put 12 coats of clear polyurethane on him, so he'd stay that way.
Oh, I wondered how you got them that.
They polished him, and then we put 12 coats of polyurethane on them.
Because they didn't look that shiny and bright when I was down looking for them in the warehouse the other day.
They let that set for about a week and rub them down and polish them to be more yet. If I was bid, I wouldn't do it for less than $55,000. I bid a job like this 4 years ago, and they didn't do it, but that's what I bid on it.
Was this a major job to get this thing looking the way it did?
Yes, it was. There's a lot of preparation of the metal and getting the plane stripped and getting it ready where the paint would hold on to it.
Hold on to it is a phrase used a lot around here, although in a different context. This is a 32-year-old plane, and if something isn't broken now, it will be broken sometime. The volunteers picked up 17,000 pounds of spare parts in Florida, but coming up with others is a bit of a challenge.
Well, they're not easy, but we managed to break up about 3 airplanes, 3 Connies, and we've salvaged parts out of those to get this one going. That's where we're getting our parts, from salvage. If we can find a new part, fine. If we can't, well, we make do with what we got by repairing it and rebuilding it.
Parts are no longer available. New parts are no longer available. You just got to be able to scrounge up a lot of parts and be able to rebuild the older parts and save everything off of them. You don't let anything get away from you. Use it for pattern.
Patterns are important elsewhere in the plane. When the Connie arrived in Kansas City, this was the condition of the cabin. Some 4 years later, the cabin has been transformed into this. The conversion wasn't easy or cheap. The cabin walls and ceiling came from another plane headed to the junkyard, and it still cost about 10 grand. The seats, completely reconstructed, cost about $1,000 each.
This material is authentic, and we found a manufacturer that would duplicate the old material, which we sent in a sample, and they duplicated it for us.
So this is new stuff, but it's just like the original.
That's right, it's brand new.
A few other things are new. The coach seats, for example, aren't from a Constellation, but they'll do until more authentic seats are found. And the crew relies on new radio equipment since the old original just can't be brought up to par. Other than those and a few other minor details, this plane is much like one a passenger would have taken to London in 1959. Some things are said to improve with age, and that seems to be true of the Constellation.
We've changed 8 cylinders on these engines, and they're military engines. We got all 4 military engines on there now, and they're low-time engines, and we do have it running pretty good right now. In fact, I think we made, 20 flights now without a mechanical delay, which a lot of the airlines would like to have 20 flights without a mechanical.
But that requires a lot of work, and as the crew continues to learn, Working on a 32-year-old plane is sometimes an adventure.
Hey, what I found in the wing.
Keeping this plane in flyable condition really is a labor of love, with emphasis on labor. Most of the members of Save-A-Connie, Inc. are retired TWA employees, and they find themselves putting in more hours now than when they were getting a paycheck.
Now I'm having a whale of a time not working on this thing. I'm having a ball. I enjoy this airplane. As I was up in the shop, I never got to work on the airplane. I never got down on the airplane. This time I'm down on the airplane. I'm having a ball. I enjoy it. It's making retirement worthwhile.
If that's the case, then a lot of retirees should find plenty of fulfillment, because this airplane needs a lot of work just to keep it going.
It's pretty much maintenance intensive. It requires a lot of maintenance. It probably, for each hour they fly it probably takes, I'd say, probably 100 to 150 man-hours minimum just for each hour they fly it.
It's just like that bridge there in California, them painters. They paint and get the one in, they turn around and go back the other, and they're never done. They're painting forever. That's this project the same way. You're never done.
Another thing that's never done is finding the cash to subsidize this project. The Save-A-Connie people didn't go to all of this trouble to keep the plane on the ground. But when you figure wear and tear, insurance, and fuel, it ain't cheap.
Cost about $1,000 an hour in fuel to fly this thing. 500 gallons an hour go through the tanks, and that's $2 a gallon. If you put the whole thing together, probably $2,500 an hour to fly it. Strictly an air show airplane. If a guy makes a turn and you say, just do $50, don't make turns.
Well, let's fix one up. Let's buy it and fix it up and take it to air shows. This is the dumbest idea anybody ever had. Nobody could afford to buy a Constellation and fix it up.
The city does cough up a few bucks here and there, and air shows pick up the tab for fuel. The rest of the money that keeps the Connie flying comes through donations. These people pay to work on the plane, and the money pit has just been expanded with the acquisition of this 1952 Martin 404. Okay, with all the work and no money to get it done, why do these people stick with it?
When you hear it run and see it fly, well, I think you'll understand why we do it, because it's a pretty impressive airplane. This airplane here, when it goes overhead, people will stop and take a look at it, and if they hear a jet go over, well, people won't even look up at a jet. It's just noise. But when they hear this airplane, if they're outside, I guarantee you they'll stop and look up and see what it is, because most of them aren't familiar with the sound.
Instead of being in a museum like the Smithsonian, where it's sitting there and people look at it, it'll never fly. This one will take it. This is a flying museum. It'll go wherever people want to see it. They can see it, touch it, walk on it, whatever. They'll see it. And this will be a hands-on outfit. They can see it, feel it, touch it, smell a little smoke and stuff as it comes out of it. It's a lot better than sitting in an old museum, never to fly again.
A museum is just what the Save-A-Connie people have in mind for the future. They'd like to have the only flying aviation museum in the country, based naturally out of the downtown airport. So Save-A-Connie, Inc. will be shopping for more planes as funding allows. Incidentally, the Connie's fame is spreading internationally. The plane is a featured player in the film Last Call for Passenger Faber, which has already opened in Europe and is scheduled to open in the U.S. this year.